Sullivan. I'm a former IRS agent and teaching instructor. Welcome to my YouTube station. It's the home of the 5 minute or less video. I have worked at IRS for 10 years. I've been in private practice for 40. I've been doing this for 50 years. I'm a national expert in IRS tax defense. Welcome to my YouTube station. I hope you give me a subscription at the end. Many of you have come to me because you've seen me on the national news. I've been on Fox a couple times, ABC, the briefing room, the Washington Hour. I have been on News Nation, Newsmax, CBS, NBC. You can go to my website at 777 and see some of my national broadcasts. More importantly, there you can see my team of former IRS agents who are just all crackerjacks. They are excellent in their field. So I try to give you the truth honestly. I don't do a lot of self-promotion. I do obviously resolution work, but I give you the information that you need in an honest fashion so you can make honest decisions. Today I want to talk to you about abating IRS penalties and interest. You need to know I used to abate penalties and interest for the IRS, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. I saved people maybe millions of dollars in abatements, and I probably rejected twice as much as that. There is no magic wand at all for IRS penalty abatements. It requires a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of documentation, and a lot of exhibits that go in. Many people think that penalties and interest are unfair, that the rates are almost usurious, and with the failure to pay penalty at 6%, I kind of agree it's almost a usurious penalty. IRS penalties can range all different types. The most common ones are the failure to file, up to 25%, failure to pay, which is 6%, the current interest rate, which could be 7%. They have an estimate payment. They have a failure deposit penalty. They have a bunch of penalties. But the point is there is no magic wand to go ahead and abate the penalties. You must have a solid reason. In the IRM, Section 5 goes over penalty abatements. You can go to my website at 777irs.com. I have a whole section on there on how to abate penalties and interest. Basically, I've taken the Internal Revenue Manual, I've placed it out, and I put the important aspects on the financial statement of what you can pretty much get allowed with and what you need to put. I want to tell you that the things that you first need to know, you need to, and I'm going to read some of this actually right off my website. You need to write a thorough statement about the facts and affidavits and put your documents to fit the timeline. The first thing IRS is doing is they're looking at the timeline. When did the event happen? Is your reason during the event? Many people give you reasons like a year later that doesn't fit, or some time period before. When you put your abatement in, it must meet the timeline. So you put your timeline down first and then make sure your abatement wraps around there. You want to get statements from other people, employees, professionals that verify your claim. That's going to speak volumes. People who can support what you're saying. The more professional affidavit you have, the more you can fly. If you can get a letter from an attorney, a CPA, or an accountant, a banker, some professional that can support your documentation in an affidavit, that's big. You want to make sure your narrative makes sense and it's not long. You don't want a narrative really more than 2 pages with kind of large font. IRS doesn't want people to go on and on and on, and you have to make sure that the abatement of the penalty actually fits in the IRS protocol. I'll try to go over some of those. And you want to say why the abatement of the penalty has to really be has to be given because of maybe a hardship. So you want to go ahead and add the date the non-compliance happened. You want to say the event that prevented you from having the non-compliance. You want to also see how fast after the event happened that you complied, that you didn't stay delinquent for a long period of time. You want to have a complete history. You want to say what happened during this time. You want to say why you couldn't have been a non-compliant. Were you sickness? Was there a problem you have? You want the facts and circumstances that supported. You want to have the documentation that proves this. And you have to go ahead and pick a reason that matches the IRS standards. Let me go over some of the reasonable causes that IRS has. That number one, you use ordinary and prudent business care, and because some event that took place, you could no longer meet those. There could have been an accident, could have been COVID, something could have happened to your business, a supplier dried up, you didn't get a bank loan. Those are some of the things. Ignorance of the law can forgive it. A mistake was made, but you used ordinary and prudent business care. You actually made a forgetful mistake. That's another reason. There was a death or serious unavoidable absence that took place. You were unable to obtain tax records, and you could have gone through an undue hardship at the time. You got advice from third parties that were wrong, written advice. So there's a whole bunch of reasons that you can. You can also use reasons because you got the wrong advice from a taxpayer. You had a fire or casualty or natural disaster. In Florida, we get them all the time, and the IRS extends the deadline. You were an official disaster zone. There was an IRS service error. Under the New Start program, they've extended the abatement penalty. So there are a whole bunch of reasons, but what you have to do is you have to research these on the internet and find out why IRS is abating these penalties. If you can find a court case that goes ahead and matches these abatements, really all the better. Remember, there's no magic wand. You have to write a nice tight letter to IRS. Make sure it makes sense. Sometimes I give these to third parties to read because sometimes you have IRS and not so high a position going ahead and reviewing these. So you want to make sure it's nice and clean with documentations. And I'm going to tell you, 90% of most penalty abatements fail when you write these to the service center. Where you win most of the cases are by taking the case to appeals. Appeals is more reasonable, they're more functional, and you have seasoned IRS. So anytime you get an abatement of a penalty from a service center, you immediately go ahead and file an appeal because you're going to have amazing success there. Thank you very much. I gave you all the information you can. If you can go ahead and give me a subscription, a like, or a comment, I'd really appreciate you. Thank you very much.